The reconstruction of galactic society took 10 years. The old Galactic Council was formally dissolved, and in its place, the Galactic Union was formed. Every species had equal representation. Laws were written to protect all citizens from discrimination. Democratic principles replaced the old hierarchy. Hyunwoo served as the first Secretary General of the Union. It was exhausting work, building a government from scratch while also managing the healing process between humans and the other species. But slowly, progress was made. The most difficult part was rebuilding trust. Many humans were still angry, still hurt by decades of mistreatment. Many aliens were ashamed, struggling to accept that their societies had been built on exploitation. There were conflicts, setbacks, and painful conversations, but both sides kept trying. Dr. Jisoo established the Union Institute of Science, where researchers from all species worked together as genuine equals. The breakthroughs that came from true cooperation were remarkable. Medical technology advanced faster than ever. New energy sources were discovered. Agricultural methods improved, ending food shortages across the galaxy. Jisoo stood in her laboratory one day, working alongside an alien scientist named Velkan, who happened to be Velthar's nephew. The young Veltaran was brilliant and humble, everything his uncle had not been. "Dr. Jisoo," Velkan said, "I want to apologize for my uncle's actions, for my entire species' actions. We were so wrong about humanity." Jisoo smiled gently. "You are not responsible for what happened before you were born. What matters is what you choose to do now. And right now, you are doing excellent work. That is enough." Admiral Minho retired from active military service and became the head of the Union Defense Academy. He trained the new integrated military forces, where humans and aliens served together as equals. The old prejudices faded as soldiers learned to rely on each other regardless of species. One day, a young human recruit asked him why he had agreed to help the council after everything they had done. Minho thought carefully before answering. "Revenge is easy," he said. "It feels good in the moment, but it leaves you empty afterward. We chose something harder. We chose to be better than our anger. That choice defined us more than any battle ever could." Ambassador Yoonji took over as Secretary General when Hyunwoo retired. She brought a new generation's perspective, one that remembered the pain of the past but was not consumed by it. Under her leadership, the Union continued to grow stronger. The quantum relay network was rebuilt, this time as a shared project with cooperative maintenance. The technology was no longer a secret. Humans taught other species how to build and repair the systems. Some learning was slow, but everyone tried. Economic recovery took years, but eventually prosperity returned to the galaxy. This time it was shared more fairly. Human workers received equal pay. Human scientists received credit for their discoveries. Human soldiers were honored for their service. Not everyone was happy with the changes. Some aliens resented losing their privileged positions. Some humans could not forgive the past. But the majority on both sides chose to move forward. 10 years after the intervention, a monument was erected, on Veltara Prime, at the site where the old council chambers had stood. It was a simple design, a human hand and an alien hand clasped together in partnership. The inscription was written in every Union language. "Let this mark the day we chose unity over pride, and discovered that strength without compassion is tyranny, while compassion without strength is merely hope. Together we are both." The dedication ceremony was attended by thousands. Hyunwoo stood with other human leaders, watching as the monument was unveiled. He felt tired but satisfied. The galaxy was not perfect, but it was better. That was enough. A young girl approached him after the ceremony. She was half human, half Veltaran, one of the first generation born in the new era. Her name was Sumi, and she was curious about everything. "Grandfather Hyunwoo," she said, "what was the galaxy like before the Union?" He knelt down to her level, smiling gently. "Different, smaller. We all stayed in our own corners thinking we were complete. Then we learned that sometimes you have to walk away to teach others your worth, and sometimes you have to come back to prove your character. Would you do it again? Sumi asked. Would you leave them again if you could go back? Hyunwoo looked at the monument, thinking about everything that had happened. The pain, the anger, the difficult choices, and finally, the healing. Yes, he said honestly, because they needed to fall to learn to stand, and we needed to leave to remember who we are. But I am glad we came back, not for them, but for us, because the choice to help, even when we did not have to, that choice made us who we wanted to be. Sumi hugged him, not fully understanding, but feeling the importance of his words. Around them, humans and aliens mingled together, talking, laughing, and building friendships. Children of different species played together, seeing no barriers between them. Dr. Jisoo stood nearby with her colleagues, planning their next research project. Admiral Minho chatted with former soldiers, sharing old war stories. Ambassador Yoonji discussed policy with union representatives, working to solve new challenges. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Respect could not be demanded. It could only be earned. And humanity had earned it, not through violence or domination, but through the simple act of choosing dignity over desperation and compassion over revenge. As the sun set over Veltara Prime, casting long shadows across the monument, Hyunwoo felt a sense of peace. The journey had been long and painful, but they had arrived at a place worth reaching. The galaxy was united, not under one dominant species, but as a true union of equals, and that made all the struggle worthwhile. Commander Hyunwoo stood in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, holding a datapad that contained humanity's 15th petition for equal rights. The chamber was massive, built to accommodate 47 different alien species, each with their own section of floating platforms arranged in a circle. At the center stood the presentation floor where Hyunwoo now waited. He had been doing this for 20 years. Every time the result was the same, but he had to try again. The council members barely looked at him as he began his speech. He talked about humanity's contributions to the galaxy over the past 127 years. He showed them numbers that proved humans provided 60% of the military forces that protected council space. He displayed charts showing that 80% of new technology came from human scientists. He explained how humans managed most of the infrastructure that kept council worlds running smoothly. Councillor Velthar, a tall being with purple skin and 4 arms, raised one hand to interrupt. He did not even pretend to read the petition. His voice was loud and dismissive. This again? Velthar said, and several council members laughed. Humans are too young, too emotional, too impulsive to hold real power in this council. You should be grateful we allow you to serve us at all. Another council member added, Your species is barely past its violent phase. You need guidance from more evolved beings like us. Hyunwoo felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his face calm. He had heard these insults before. He bowed respectfully and left the chamber carrying the rejected petition with him. Behind him, the council members were already discussing other matters, as if he had never been there. That night, Hyunwoo called a secret meeting. He sat in a secured room with 3 other important human leaders. Dr. Jisoo was there, a brilliant scientist who had developed medical technology that extended alien lifespans by 40%. Admiral Minho commanded Earth's defense fleet, the largest military force in council space. Ambassador Yoonji, Hyunwoo's deputy, was young but sharp, though her idealism was fading after years of watching the council reject humanity. They reviewed a report that Dr. Jisoo had prepared. The numbers were devastating. Humans had submitted 847 petitions for basic rights over 127 years. All rejected. Human soldiers died in council wars but were never honored. Human scientists made discoveries, but alien species claimed credit for them. Human workers built the infrastructure of entire worlds but were paid less than any other species. We are slaves in everything but name, Dr. Jisoo said quietly. They just call us provisional members to make it sound better. Admiral Minho leaned forward. Then what do you propose, war? We would win, but we would become the very thing they accuse us of being. Hyunwoo shook his head. No violence. No threats. We simply leave. The room went silent. Yoonji stared at him. Leave all of us? Where would we go? Back to human space, Hyunwoo said. We have colonies beyond council borders. We have resources. We do not need them. They need us, but they have never realized it. Dr. Jisoo smiled, though it was not a happy smile. You want to show them what happens when we are gone. I want to give them one final chance, Hyunwoo said. In 30 days, I will request a private meeting with the Council's inner circle. I will offer them a choice. Give us equal rights or we withdraw completely. If they refuse, we pack up everything we built and leave. No sabotage. No destruction. We just take ourselves and our knowledge away. Admiral Minho considered this carefully. If we do this, we need to be ready to follow through. That means preparing for a complete exodus. Every human in Council space, every ship, every tool, every piece of technology we created. Can we really do that? Yoonji asked. There are millions of humans across hundreds of worlds. We can, Minho said, but it will take planning and secrecy. If the Council knows what we are preparing, they might try to stop us. They debated for hours. Finally, Hyunwoo called for a vote. It was unanimous. They would give the Council one last chance, and if refused, humanity would disappear from Council space entirely. Over the next 30 days, quiet preparations began. Human engineers accessed the systems they had built and started creating backup codes and security protocols. They did this carefully, making it look like routine maintenance. Human scientists began archiving their research, preparing to take it with them. Military units conducted training exercises that were actually practice for rapid evacuation procedures. The Council noticed nothing. They were too used to humans following orders without question. Hyunwoo spent those days visiting human communities across Council space. He met with families who had lived on alien worlds for generations. He spoke with soldiers who had fought and bled for the Council. He listened to workers who had built magnificent cities for species that treated them like servants. Everyone he spoke to was tired of being dismissed, insulted, and used. When he explained the plan, he expected resistance. Instead, he found overwhelming support. People were ready to leave. They were ready to go home. On the morning of the 30th day, Hyunwoo requested a private audience with the Council's inner circle. He said he had a solution to humanity's complaints. The Council agreed, probably expecting him to offer some compromise or to beg once more. The meeting took place in a sealed chamber, just 12 Council members and Hyunwoo. He stood before them and delivered his message in a calm, clear voice. Humanity has served the Galactic Council faithfully for 127 years. We have asked for nothing but respect and equal treatment. Today we make our final request. Grant us full voting rights and equal representation, or humanity will withdraw completely from Council space within 60 days. The silence lasted only a moment before the Council members burst into laughter. Velthar laughed so hard he had to wipe tears from his eyes. Is this a joke? One Council member asked. You need us more than we need you. Where will you go? Hyunwoo placed a data crystal on the table. That contains every legal document required by Council law for our withdrawal. We will follow every rule, every procedure. In 60 days, if you have not granted our request, the first human ships will begin leaving. Within 90 days, every human will be gone. He turned to leave, but Velthar called after him. You are making a terrible mistake. You are nothing without the Council. Hyunwoo looked back over his shoulder. Perhaps. Or perhaps you are nothing without us. I suppose we will all find out. He left the chamber and the countdown began. The human assembly met in a vast chamber on Earth, with representatives from every human colony and settlement. The debate over whether to help the Council lasted for 3 days. Hyunwoo presented the Council's official offer, but the assembly was deeply divided. Many representatives, especially those who had suffered under Council prejudice, argued for letting the Council face the consequences of their actions. They spoke of family members who had died in Council wars without recognition, of scientists whose discoveries were stolen, of workers who were treated as disposable, but others, led by Dr. Jisoo, argued for humanity's principles. She stood before the assembly and spoke with quiet passion. I understand the anger. I feel it too. But if we let billions of innocent people die because their leaders were arrogant, we become as cruel as they were. We become the monsters they accused us of being. Our strength is not just our technology. It is our compassion. That is what makes us better. Admiral Minho presented a military assessment. Human forces could stop the Kresh invasion. The casualties would be significant, but victory was almost certain. The question was not capability but morality. Ambassador Yunji, who had once been idealistic and was now hardened by experience, gave the speech that changed minds. She stood at the podium, her voice clear and strong. When we left the council, we proved we could stand alone. We proved they needed us more than we needed them. We made our point. The galaxy knows our worth now, but if we abandon billions to slaughter, we lose something far more important than respect. We lose ourselves. We become the lesser species they always claimed we were. She paused, looking around at the assembly. If we help them, we do not do it for the council's leaders. We do it for the children who had no say in their government's decisions. We do it for the workers who never insulted us. We do it because we choose to be better. Not stronger, not smarter, but better in the ways that actually matter. The vote was close, but ultimately the assembly agreed to intervene. However, they set strict conditions. Humanity would save council civilians and stop the Kresh invasion, but the political structure of the Galactic Council would be completely dissolved and rebuilt with true democratic principles. Every species would have equal representation. Discrimination would be a crime, and humanity would be paid fairly for their help. The council delegates had no choice but to agree. Admiral Minho mobilized the fleet immediately. Human warships equipped with technology the council had never known existed jumped back into council space. They arrived just as the Kresh horde began their invasion of the Outer Rim worlds. The Kresh were confident, expecting easy victories against the weakened council. They attacked with overwhelming force, their ships tearing through the limited defenses. Entire colonies fell within days. Then the human fleet arrived. The Kresh had never fought humans before. They expected primitives, the same species the council had dismissed as mere laborers. What they encountered instead was a military force that had been holding back its true capabilities for over a century. Human warships appeared without warning, their stealth technology making them invisible until they opened fire. Their weapons were generations ahead of anything the Kresh had faced. Human pilots flew with precision that seemed impossible. Human tactics were brilliant and adaptable. The first major battle took place in the Vorthan system. The Kresh committed a fleet of 300 warships intending to overwhelm the defenders through sheer numbers. Admiral Minho's fleet numbered only 80 ships, but they were more than enough. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the Kresh fleet was completely destroyed. The human fleet suffered 0 casualties. News of the battle spread quickly. The Kresh commanders realized they had made a terrible mistake. They tried to retreat, but human forces hunted them relentlessly. Within 3 weeks, the Kresh horde was routed completely. The threat that had terrorized the galaxy for decades was broken by humanity in less than a month. Council worlds watched in amazement and fear. They had always seen humans as inferior, but now they witnessed military power beyond anything they imagined possible. Some were grateful. Others were terrified that humans might seek revenge. While the military operations continued, Dr. Jisoo led medical teams to devastated worlds. They treated wounded civilians without discrimination, saving lives wherever they could. Human engineers began repairing critical infrastructure, but this time, they worked under contract, with proper payment and respect. Jisoo worked in a field hospital on the planet Krethon, the same world where the governor had tried to detain human workers months earlier. She treated a young alien child who had been injured during the Kresh attack. The child's mother watched with tears in her eyes. "Why are you helping us?" the mother asked. "After everything we did to your people, why did you come back?" Jisoo looked up from her work, her hand steady as she healed the child's wounds. "Because this child did not hurt anyone. Because punishing the innocent for the crimes of their leaders is wrong. And because we choose to be better than that." The mother began crying harder, this time from gratitude and shame. The Kresh invasion was completely stopped within 6 weeks of human intervention. The galaxy, which had been on the brink of catastrophe, was saved. But the cost in trust and pride for the Council was enormous. They had been forced to face the truth they had denied for over a century. Humanity was not inferior. Humanity had been merciful. Councillor Velthar, stripped of his position and facing prosecution for corruption and negligence, requested a private meeting with Hyunwoo. They met in a small room, just the two of them. Velthar looked broken, his arrogance completely gone. "Why did you come back?" he asked quietly. "We treated you terribly. We mocked you, used you, dismissed you. You had every right to let us fall. Hyunwoo sat across from him, his expression neutral. When you look in a mirror, Velthar, you see what you are. When we look in a mirror, we see what we choose to be. You chose pride and cruelty. We chose compassion and strength. That is the difference between us. Velthar nodded slowly. I understand now. Too late, but I understand. For what it is worth, I am sorry. Tell that to the families of the humans who died in your wars, Hyunwoo said. Tell that to the scientists whose work you stole. Your apology means nothing to me, but perhaps it will mean something to them. He stood and left the room, leaving Velthar alone with his shame. Day 60 arrived like any other morning across Council space, but by evening, everything had changed. The human transports began arriving at hundreds of worlds simultaneously. Humans left their jobs at the end of their shifts, packed their belongings, and boarded the ships. They were calm, organized, and efficient. There were no protests, no violence, no angry speeches. They simply left. But as they left, the infrastructure they had maintained began to fail. On Veltara Prime, the capital world, the power grid started fluctuating around noon. The quantum reactors that powered the entire planet were still running, but their output was dropping. The Veltaran engineers who were supposed to supervise the facility rushed to the control room and stared at panels they had never actually operated. Humans had always handled the technical work, while the Veltarans took credit for managing the facility. The lead engineer, a confident being named Krell, tried pressing buttons and adjusting controls. Nothing happened. He called for help, but the human engineers who usually worked there were already on transport ships heading out of orbit. By evening, Veltara Prime was experiencing rolling blackouts. Billions of people sat in darkness, confused and angry. The same scene repeated across the galaxy. On industrial worlds, factories shut down because no one could operate the complex machinery humans had designed. On agricultural planets, automated farming systems stopped working, threatening food supplies. On military bases, defense platforms entered safe mode, their weapon systems locked behind encryption codes that only humans knew. The quantum relay network, which allowed instant communication across the galaxy, went completely dark. The network consisted of thousands of relay stations positioned throughout space. Humans had built every single one and maintained them all. With humans gone, the stations automatically shut down after detecting lack of maintenance signals. Council worlds were suddenly isolated from each other. Messages that once arrived instantly now took weeks or months to deliver by traditional ship. The galaxy felt bigger, darker, and lonelier. Dr. Jisoo sat on a transport ship watching the data feeds from Council space. She felt a strange mix of satisfaction and guilt. She had tried to warn them. She had shown them the dependency charts, explained how interconnected everything was, demonstrated how much they relied on human expertise. They had ignored her. A young scientist named Minji approached her. Dr. Jisoo, should we feel bad about this? People are suffering because systems are failing. Jisoo sighed. We offered to stay. We offered to keep everything running if they just treated us equally. They chose pride over practicality. The suffering they experience now is the result of their own choices, not ours. Admiral Minho's fleet conducted the final evacuations with military precision. There were a few incidents where local authorities tried to prevent humans from leaving, claiming they were too valuable to lose. In each case, Minho's ships arrived and made it clear that humans were leaving. Peacefully if possible, but leaving regardless. On the industrial world of Crethon, the local governor ordered security forces to detain human workers. He declared that their work contracts were not complete and they could not leave until replacements were trained. Minho's response was swift and overwhelming. 3 warships entered orbit above Crethon. Minho himself appeared on every screen across the planet with a simple message. Any human who wishes to leave will leave. Any force that attempts to stop them will face immediate military action. We will not fire first, but we will not allow our people to be held prisoner. You have 1 hour to release every detained human. The governor looked at the warships in orbit and realized he had no choice. Human military technology was far more advanced than anything the Council possessed. The detained workers were released within 30 minutes. By day 90, the last human transport departed from Council space. Billions of humans were on their way to territories beyond Council borders, places where humans had quietly established colonies and outposts over the decades. These were fully functional societies, ready to absorb the incoming population. Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the final transport to leave, watching the council border fade from the view screen. Ambassador Yoonji stood beside him, tears running down her face. "Did we do the right thing?" she asked. "So many innocent people are suffering because their systems are failing." Hyunwoo was quiet for a long moment. "We did not cause this suffering. We simply stopped preventing it. The council built their entire civilization on our backs and never even noticed. Now they notice. Maybe that is the only way they will learn." He activated the communication system one last time and broadcast a message across all frequencies, ensuring every council world would receive it. "This is Commander Hyunwoo, formerly of the Human Diplomatic Corps. Humanity has now completely withdrawn from council space. We came to you in peace 127 years ago. We worked in good faith. We asked only for respect. You gave us contempt instead. Now you face the consequences of your choices. Perhaps you will rebuild. Perhaps you will find other species to exploit. Or perhaps you will learn that partnership requires respect, not dominance. We will not return. Farewell." The message ended, and the human ships jumped to faster-than-light travel, leaving council space behind forever. 3 months passed, and the council's situation grew worse every day. The economy collapsed as trade routes failed without the quantum relay network. Ships traveling at slower speeds took months to cross distances they had covered in days before. Commerce stopped. Shortages began appearing everywhere. Councillor Velthar stood before an emergency assembly, trying to explain how the crisis had happened. He looked older now, his confidence shattered. The other council members shouted at him, demanding answers. "You said we did not need them," one representative yelled. "You said any species could do their work. You said they were just laborers," another added. "But our scientists cannot understand their technology. Our engineers cannot operate their systems. We are collapsing." Velthar had no good answers. Teams of the best alien scientists had tried to reverse engineer human technology. They failed completely. Human encryption was unbreakable. Human engineering was too advanced. Equipment sat idle because no one could figure out how to make it work. The medical crisis hit hardest. Without Dr. Jisu's treatments and technology, mortality rates increased across all species. Diseases that humans had cured came back. The elderly, who had been kept alive by human medical advances, began dying. Hospitals overflowed with patients that doctors no longer knew how to treat. On the pleasure world of Sylvanta, wealthy council members who had relied on human life extension treatments watched their health rapidly decline. These were the same people who had voted against human rights, certain that humans were beneath them. Now they begged for help, but no help came. The military situation became desperate when long-range scouts detected the Kresh horde moving toward council borders. The Kresh were a hostile force that the council's defense grid had always kept away. But with the defense platforms offline and 60% of military strength gone with humanity, the council was vulnerable. Admiral Yuna, a Veltaran military officer who had always respected human soldiers, sent urgent warnings to the council. She was one of the few aliens who had maintained secret contact with humanity. After the Exodus, she warned that the Kresh would attack within months. The council tried desperately to repair their defenses but made little progress. They sent official delegations to human space begging humanity to return. They offered full voting rights, equal representation, even reparations. Hyunwoo received the delegates in a conference room on Earth. He listened to their pleas without expression. When they finished, he leaned forward and spoke in a cold, measured voice. "You offer us now what we asked for 127 years ago. You offer it not because you believe we deserve it, but because you are desperate. You do not offer respect. You offer panic." The lead delegate, a being named Korath, bowed his head. "You are right. We were wrong. We were arrogant and foolish. But please, innocent people are dying. They did not choose this. Their leaders failed them." Hyunwoo's expression softened slightly. "I will bring your offer to the human assembly. But understand that even if we agree to talk, we will never return to how things were before. If humanity engages with the council again, it will be as equals or not at all." The council did not believe humanity would actually leave. Velthar told the other council members that it was just a negotiating tactic, a way to squeeze concessions from them. They had seen humans as compliant and eager to please for over a century. The idea that humans would walk away from everything seemed impossible. But Hyunwoo was already setting the real work in motion. Encrypted messages went out to every human settlement in Council space. The messages contained detailed instructions and timelines. Engineers received orders to begin the careful process of securing or disabling the systems they had built. Scientists started purging databases and preparing to abandon research facilities. Military commanders positioned their forces for rapid extraction operations. Dr. Jisoo took on the most delicate task. She oversaw the shutdown procedures for critical technology. Humans had built so much of the Council's infrastructure that removing it all would cause chaos. She felt guilty about that at first, but then she reminded herself that they had offered the Council a choice. If the systems failed after humans left, it was because the Council had chosen pride over sense. She sat in her laboratory, looking at decades of research. She had cured diseases that had plagued alien species for thousands of years. She had developed fusion reactors that powered entire planets. She had created the quantum relay network that allowed instant communication across the galaxy. And for all of that, the Council had never even thanked her. They acted as if the technology had simply appeared, as if human effort meant nothing. A young assistant named Daeho entered the lab. "Dr. Jisoo, we have finished backing up all the essential research. Should we start the purge protocols?" "Not yet," she said. "We still have 29 days. I want to give them every chance to do the right thing." But in her heart she knew they would not. Admiral Minho faced different challenges. He commanded over 600,000 human military personnel spread across Council space. They were integrated into mixed units, serving alongside alien soldiers who often treated them with casual contempt. Extracting them without causing panic would require precision. He called his senior officers to a secure meeting aboard his flagship. When they were all assembled, he explained the situation. Some officers were excited, ready to leave the Council behind. Others were worried about the logistics. One captain named Taewon raised an important question. "Sir, what about the alien soldiers who have treated us well? The ones who respected us as equals?" Mio nodded. "We will warn them, quietly. Give them a chance to decide whether to stay with the Council or come with us. But we cannot wait for everyone to make up their minds. The timeline is fixed." He spent the next weeks personally visiting human military bases. He spoke to the soldiers, thanked them for their service, and assured them that leaving was not running away. It was standing up. Meanwhile, Ambassador Yoonji tried one more time to reason with individual Council members. She reached out to the few aliens who had shown humanity any kindness over the years. She met with Counselor Thane, a being from a species that had always been friendly toward humans. "Please," Yoonji said, "help us convince the others. Humanity is not bluffing. If you do not give us equal rights, we will leave. And when we do, the Council will collapse." Thane looked sad. "I believe you, but I am only one voice. Felthar and his faction control the Council. They see humans as tools, not partners. They will not change until it is too late." "Then come with us," Yoonji said. "When we leave, you and others like you can join us. We will build something better." Thane considered this but shook his head. "I cannot abandon my people even if their leaders are fools. But I will remember your offer, and I will warn my family to prepare for difficult times." The 30-day mark arrived. Hyunwoo returned to the Council chamber, this time for a public session. The chamber was full, with representatives from all 47 species present. He stood at the center and made humanity's final offer public. The Galactic Council has 30 more days to grant humanity equal representation and voting rights. If this does not happen, humanity will begin a complete withdrawal from Council space. This is not a threat. This is a notification, as required by Council law. The chamber erupted in noise. Some species laughed. Some looked worried. Felthar stood and addressed the assembly. "Let them go," he said loudly. "Humans think they are special because they work hard, but hard work is common. Any species can do what humans do. We do not need them. They need us." A vote was called. Should the Council grant humanity equal rights? The result was overwhelming. 43 species voted no. Only 3 voted yes. 1 abstained. Hyunwoo bowed one final time. "Then we are done here. Humanity officially withdraws from the Galactic Council, effective in 60 days. He walked out of the chamber and never looked back. The first ships left 10 days later. They departed from Outer Rim colonies carrying human families and their belongings. The Council noticed but assumed it was a small group. Just the most angry humans making a point. They did not realize it was the beginning of an exodus. As the days counted down, more and more humans began leaving. Engineers finished their work and boarded transport ships. Scientists sealed their laboratories and departed. Doctors treated their last patients and said goodbye. And everywhere they left, something strange began happening. Systems that had always worked perfectly started having problems. Power grids flickered. Communication networks slowed. Defense platforms went into standby mode. Nothing catastrophic yet, but small signs that something was wrong. The Council still did not understand. They thought humans were sabotaging systems out of spite. They sent investigators to check, but the investigators found nothing broken. The systems were intact, they just were not working as well as before. On day 59, Hyunwoo gave one final broadcast to the entire Council space. Tomorrow, the last human transport will leave. We fulfilled every legal requirement. We gave you every chance. We are leaving in peace. But understand this, we built more than you realized. We maintained more than you knew, and now you will discover what you have lost.